everybody. I hope everybody's been doing great. I had to take some time off work and personal stuff and, just a lot of stuff, but I'm glad to be back. I missed you all. I have been reading my lessons. I'm coming out of the R.H. Boyd Sunday School books, repping my R.H. Boyd geared. And listen, let's remember to pray for people. Sometimes people don't broadcast what they're going through. You can't tell by looking at them. Sometimes they suffer in silence and may not even be suffering, but they're going through things. So let's just keep everybody in prayer. Listen, let's jump right into it. The title of the lesson is called Unbroken Promises. I love that. We're coming out of Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 5, 7, chapter 15, verses 1 through 7. So here's what's awesome. I was in church recently, and one of my favorite songs came on, and it goes, he's a way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that's who you are. And that's where our lesson is coming from in Genesis, and it's talking about promises. So in the first section of verses, right in the intro, it says, promise is a currency that is needed to navigate life and trust. And I'm like, oh man, yeah. Because when you make a promise and you try to keep a promise, or someone promises you something, there's a certain level of trust, depending on who's making it. Even if it's yourself, sometimes you might have made a promise that you weren't able to keep, and not keeping that promise, may result in somebody not trusting you anymore. But in first set of verses 1 through 3, God is talking to Abram, who becomes Abraham, if you've been reading, and I'm pretty sure you need to go do some reading. And it says, now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. Reading out of the New Revised Standard Version. So if you're looking at that, God is telling Abram, leave your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. So you need to pick up, pack up, leave everything and go where I'm telling you to go. Like what? So here's why though. Here's what God tells him. God says, I will make you a great nation and I will bless you and I'll make your name great so that you will be a blessing. Verse 3 says, I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And in you all the families of earth shall be blessed. So God's given him instructions to do something, but he's also making him a promise at the same time. So it's basically, I'm telling you to do this, but this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to bless you. So Abram, being who he is, he's going to go ahead and follow. You know the story. And if you don't, you're going to go ahead and read that so you can study to show yourself approved. But it's really awesome. But if you think about it, how strong do you have to be to listen to that instruction to leave everything? Because, I'm thinking about different strokes. Like, what you talking about, Willis? We talking about you leaving everything and I'm leaving home, family, comfort. That's hard for us to do, especially if we're in a place where we are comfortable, where we feel safe. Listening to God requires us to have trust in him. Do you have that kind of trust in God to do what he says to do, even when it doesn't seem like it's the right thing for you to do? So Abram does it. So here's in the next part, Abram, God's still talking to him, and we find out. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Lot is his nephew. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from this area. So 75 years old, but he had to take everything with him, his whole caravan, his family, his possessions. Back then possessions are like your servants, slaves, your animals and things like that. And he's going and he's listening to what God is telling him. He took his wife. He didn't take any children with him because he didn't have any children. So the key part of this, if you go back to verse 2 and 3, it's like, wait a minute, you're going to bless my family and all my children and my children's children and stuff like that. It's like, I'm 75 years old. I don't have any. But yet God is making that promise. So verse 7 says, then the Lord appeared to Abraham, came down to him. To your offspring I will give this land. So he built there an altar to the Lord who appeared to him. So again, this is God making a promise about something that hasn't even happened yet. And again, 75 years old is 75 years old. If you're having children at 75, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to put it on the market and sell it. But anyway, I digress. So then in the third part of this, God is showing Abram some things. And he says, I'm going to be a shield. But Abram is smart. He's like, wait a minute, I'm 75. And in verse 2, chapter 15, verse 2, he says, but Abram said, O Lord God, what will you give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house is, Eliezer of Damascus. That's not my child. That's just, that's just one of the people in my house. And verse 3 says, Abram says, you have given me no offspring, and so a slave born in my house is to be my heir. It's like, the math ain't mathing, God, and everything. He's saying it with respect, of course. And then verse 4 says, but the word of the Lord came to him, this man shall not be your heir. No one but your very own issue shall be your heir. So God is telling him blank, no, it's not going to be one of your slaves. You're going to have offspring. And again, he's old, Abram is old, and his wife is old as well. They got, very close in age, so they're old. So what's going to happen, the miracle is going to be that they're going to have a child in their old age. But God is basically saying, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to shield you. Don't worry. You're going to the land that I'm telling you to go to, which is Canaan, this promised land. And the awesome part about it is that, we know God is going to keep his word. That's one thing that God's not going to do. He's not going to break his promises. So to close out, God's promises often come with problems. I love this right here. Perhaps it's because problems are what God uses to help us fulfill the promise. God's promises are going to overcome some type of challenge, that's there. But that's how we learn. That's how we learn to trust him. And it says, though he was told of the promise on multiple occasions by God, it was only through being challenged by the problems he faced along the way that made him trust God to what he had said. Oh, that is so awesome. So this is really good. As much as I've looked at this and read this, it's really good to look at it again and get reminded of what God does and how God keeps his promises and blesses us, even though things don't look great. The situation with our own human eyes doesn't look great, but it's great what God does at the very end. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to try to get back on a regular schedule and keep working. Listen, keep praying. I love y'all. Y'all take it easy. Till next time. Bye.